What if there was a sound you could listen to that would make you feel more connected to your surroundings? You'd experience unconditional love, a divine connection, and spiritual enlightenment. Would you listen to that sound? Welcome to Truly Terrified, Paranormal versus Physics, where we talk about some really weird stuff, and Joe the Scientist explains how it's not possible, or maybe it is. I'm Lynn, and...
I'm Joe.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about is the God frequency. And I had to look up a lot of different things because I don't understand this stuff. Okay, first off, the God frequency is 900. Well, did I not write it down for God's sake? Shit.
You mean to look it up?
Yeah, it's 900 and something hertz.
This one.
It's 963 hertz. There are a lot of people talking about listening, how they can listen to a sound and it will give them all of these positive feels. And one group of people says binaural beats, which is different from the God frequency. But oftentimes people confuse them or they use them interchangeably. When we're talking about the God frequency, we're talking about a specific frequency of sound, which is 963 hertz. So first off, before anything else, I had to look up what a hertz was because I kind of generally know, but I wasn't really clear. So the hertz is a method of measurement. It measures the number of cycles per second of a periodic wave, like vibrations, oscillations, or waves in various fields like physics and electronics. I'm sure you're extremely familiar with this whole thing. So 1 hertz is equivalent to 1 cycle per second. So going by that, 963 hertz would mean 963 cycles per second. So if you're listening to music, that's going to be in a different spectrum than you would ordinarily be listening to music in. So for example...
Well, unless you're pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You like weird music.
Yeah, because it is weird. For example, if a wave completes 1 full cycle in 1 second, its frequency is considered 1 hertz. That's just really the way it all comes down to. It's just a way of measuring those waves. And frequencies aren't limited just to sound. They permeate the entire electromagnetic spectrum from radio waves to gamma waves. Each frequency corresponds to a particular type of energy, and understanding them, some people say, will help us explore the vast and diverse world of energy that surrounds us. Okay, I can see you laughing. What do you have to say?
People tend to attach like more concepts to things than are really necessary or required at all. So like, for instance, a frequency, a hertz, a vibration, whatever, it's just something essentially oscillating back and forth, like a pressure wave oscillating back. So if you looked, it had a like a microphone measures pressure waves. You turn it on, you're reading the values of the pressure of the air, and it's just measuring the pressure of the air. I mean, it's just oscillating. People typically will attach like more meaning to it. You see it a lot with numbers. So like whatever the number is, I can't remember,
963.
63. Like the number 777 or 666 or whatever. They're just numbers. Like if you saw a pile of 777 things, you wouldn't even know that it was 777.
Right. No,
unless someone said it, and then it would be significant because it's 3 of the same number. Vibrations and things that are oscillating, same thing, just oscillation. In fact, you probably wouldn't even care that it's oscillation if it had no words attached to the idea of oscillation. Like here is water waves in the ocean. If you had it, like certain cultures might have names for different types of water waves, you know? But generally, you don't really say this is something special until you have a word for it.
But wait a minute. If we're going to compare it to water waves, this is important because there is some physiological, scientific evidence that indicates that this might actually have some effect on us. But going back to the waves in the ocean, we go by that. Let's imagine that a particular type of wave causes people to fall down. Another type of wave allows people to body surf. Another type of wave allows them to surf on a surfboard. And to name those waves would be valuable.
Yeah, it would be valuable dependent on what you are getting out of it. You know? So like a tsunami is just another wave.
Right.
There's nothing like necessarily special about it. It's just a really big wave. We call it a tsunami because to distinguish it from other waves, because a tsunami can kill you, can destroy everything.
Right. So naming something does have value.
Yeah.
Because it helps you to.
But you notice at the core of it all, it's not like some supernatural force is saying these waves are distinct from these waves, you know?
Right. You're identifying an effect. And whether or not that effect is valid or not remains to be seen. But yeah, okay, I get that. So what a lot of holistic practitioners connect 963 hertz, which they're calling the God
frequency.
The God frequency. They connect it with your pineal gland. I think that's how you pronounce it. Okay, so that gland is a tiny endocrine gland in the middle of your brain, and it helps regulate your body's circadian rhythm by secreting the hormone melatonin. This is interesting if it really does affect it. So these practitioners believe that when it's your pineal gland is activated, it leads to a heightened sense of intuition, clarity of thought, and increased awareness of one's surroundings. It could be said that melatonin increasing could do those things. The majority of species on the earth possess a pineal gland. Its primary role is to generate melatonin, and that hormone is crucial for regulating sleep patterns and circadian rhythm. The gland is deep within the center of the human brain, and it spans from one hemisphere to the other. Though it's small in size, it has a significant influence. Notably, it's light sensitive, which means during daylight, especially in the presence of blue or cool light, releases reduced melatonin and promotes wakefulness. Everybody should be familiar with that by now because it's, that is like common knowledge.
The light thing, yeah.
The light thing. As the sun sets and the light transitions to a warmer temperature, the pineal gland interprets this as a signal to increase your melatonin production, and that facilitates sleep. Both our eyes and the pineal gland connect to a brain region associated with visual perception, with the pineal cells sharing compositional similarities with retinal cells, which is why some people call it the third eye. I thought that was fascinating. That is pretty interesting.
I think, I might be wrong, but also if you cut a person's brain in half, the center of their brain, and it might be like the center on the pineal gland, looks like an eye. It looks like kind of a spirally thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that would lead to that then.
And surely even prehistoric people would have seen brains.
Yeah.
And probably dissected brains. Maybe not like very cleanly, but they would be able to see that there is something that kind of resembles an eye in there. I don't even know, like in a paranormal sense, how pre-modern people would be able to make the association between like seeing light causing melatonin, decreased melatonin production, and the pineal gland. I don't know how that they would associate those two. So, like that kind of thing, I would think is like dubious. If like someone said, "Oh, ancient Egyptians, they knew this." How did they know that?
Yeah.
Like, even just give me any explanation. Was it a god that told them? Okay, that's an explanation, but just no explanation is not very good. I'm looking for an image of it. Okay. It might actually be tiny. Yeah, it's actually really small. It's the thalamus that looks like an eye. So there's the pineal gland in relation to the brain.
So is it the little feathery thing at the back, or is it right on top?
It's the green thing.
Oh, wow.
It's not green. It's just for emphasis.
They're just, you can see
But you can see the kind of the same, in the center of your brain, it looks like an eye.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You can see, but again, it's like, okay, people say the pineal gland's the third eye. How did they come up with that? It doesn't even it's just like any explanation is something, but if they just don't even know how they came up with it, like if I heard it from somebody, I would say, I heard it from this person. That's why I think
Okay,
this.
so you could take a deep dive into trying to find out when people started using the expression third eye. And it could be that it was in more recent history than what we think. It might not have been ancient history. If it was more recent history, it could be because this is scientifically shown to be affected by light.
So I'm pretty sure that people have been using some variant of third eye for a very, very long time.
Well, people have also been cutting up human bodies and examining the tissue for a very, very long time.
But in particular, the pineal gland, at what point was there some one person probably came up with this, that the pineal gland was your third eye?
And it is interesting because it coincidentally shares compositional similarities with the retinal cells of your eye. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's fascinating.
Maybe that was it. Maybe someone had a study and said the pineal gland's production of melatonin or whatever is influenced by the light.
That's why I'm saying that maybe it wasn't as ancient as we think, because they were doing autopsies and examining bodies. So
using creative language, like saying, yeah, it's like a third eye. It's receiving light signals is way different. That's totally symbolic. They do not literally mean this is an eyeball in the center of your brain versus this is your spiritual eye or whatever. Like, big difference. It's using creative language. Like, you can use creative language. You could say, I don't even know, like your gut is your second brain.
And there are people who believe that.
Yeah. But it is not literally a brain. You know what I mean? Again, so much of the issue is the language people use.
All right.
And using a word does not literally it doesn't make those two concepts the same thing,
Okay, I don't know how we got off
for
on
instance,
this.
If I say a wave, a wave?
Uh-huh.
It doesn't mean I can surf that wave.
True.
I mean, I didn't specify what kind of wave,
Yeah.
You might be able to say, like, oh, this kind of thing is analogical to surfing a water wave on the ocean, but it wouldn't be the same thing.
Okay. We went down that path about the third eye only because some of these holistic practitioners say that the God frequency, 963 hertz, affects the pineal gland. That is why. So if it does affect the pineal gland and elevates your melatonin production, I'm just going to say some of the things that elevated melatonin levels can correlate with. I cannot pronounce these words. So I might try it, and then I might delete all those references.
Okay.
Elevated melatonin levels correlate with positive impacts on heart health, mood, and overall hormonal function. Furthermore, the pineal gland regulates the synthesis of serotonin, tryptamine, here's where it gets hard, dimethyltryptamine, did I say it right? And pinylene, exerting influence across various facets of biological functioning. So obviously, elevated melatonin is an important thing. You want that hormone to be elevated at the proper time because you've exposed yourself to light and dark in the correct ways or in the proper ways. So again, continuing on with the pineal gland, but we're not going to go down the third eye thing again. It's bathed in cerebral spinal fluid and has a robust blood supply. Some people argue that it ranks second only to the kidney in size. What? Now, I read that and I thought,
tiny.
What are they talking about? Your kidney is pretty large, isn't it?
Well,
your kidneys.
There are obviously smaller organs. There are obviously larger organs. I don't know what they mean by that.
I don't know. Research has also unveiled a connection between the pineal gland and the secretion of fertility hormones and libido. That makes sense because that would go along with it. And it's a brain hormone, and it goes along.
Wait a second. Why are we? What about the pineal gland?
Because
again?
holistic practitioners say that what 963 hertz does is affects the pineal gland. But we're going to get into that deeper right now. I'm just giving you some freaking background on the pineal gland.
Keep going.
Okay, additionally, it plays a role in the production of your cerebral spinal fluid. So this is an important gland. If you conduct a search on YouTube, you'll encounter numerous music selections that promise to decalcify and activate your pineal gland.
It's something I've seen over the years. It's something like fluoride. They say fluoride in the water calcifies your pineal gland. I have to imagine it was like somebody put out not a very good study, and it got into people's heads that calcification of something in your pineal gland or in your brain generally is a bad thing. And
yeah, I'd say if your brain becomes calcified, that would be a bad thing.
Calcification is not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
Your pineal gland does tend to calcify as you age. While some calcification is normal, excessive calcification can prevent your pineal gland from functioning properly. Some studies have revealed that the degree of calcification of the pineal gland is higher in those affected by Alzheimer's. That's interesting. All right, so we have shown, or we have
so it's normal.
Understood that this is a normal process.
Not dangerous, potentially correlated with aging. Alzheimer's, but a lot of things are.
Yeah, and it's correlated with aging, and Alzheimer's is correlated with aging, so, who knows how that meets up together. Okay, so I got to get back there. Okay, so all those videos on YouTube are showing that you can listen to a particular sound, although in some cases they call them music.
Yeah, well,
I would argue that
a lot of those like things, like for instance, the binaural beats, in the best case, it's two tones and headphones. You can't hear anything else. But when you start adding like white noise and stuff, so like, in the realm of videos that are for relaxation or produce particular effects, binaural beats are one of them. Then you have ambient noise, so like white noise, brown noise, raindrops and percussive noise. And then you have even farther out things that are just supposed to be like ambient sonic environments where it's like birds chirping and there's like maybe a truck goes by or something. And you can mix and match like the brown noise and the sonic environment thing, but you can't really mix and match anything else with binaural beats.
No. So so that they're wrong when they are confusing binaural beats with 963 hertz, because hertz has nothing to do with binaural beats. Binaural beats is actually going back and forth from ear to ear, right?
So binaural beats are supposedly you play one frequency in one ear, one frequency in the other ear, and your brain then produces a frequency in brainwave, like brainwave difference or brain waves themselves. That's the difference between the two tones. It doesn't mean, again, it's not like you're talking to God. It's just maybe potentially it slightly affects your brainwaves.
It also doesn't mean that it's 936 or 63 or whatever it was hertz.
And I got to say, that seems like in terms of brainwaves, that seems really high. I'm not totally, I'm not sure what.
I listened to some, and to me, it sounded like maybe somebody tried to put a melody to brown noise. It was just really loud brown noise.
If it sounded noisy, they weren't doing binaural beats correctly.
No, this is not binaural beats. This is the God sound thing.
It should have sounded like a relatively high-pitched tone.
There was
just a pure tone.
No, it varied, and it did different things. And then there was one that I saw that had different hertz, and then you could go through and up it. And by the time I got to 936 hertz, I had to turn it way down. It was not a pleasant experience to me. Okay, so and I did that before I went to bed last night, and then I had a really hard time falling asleep because I was agitated from having listened to this dreadful sound. So it didn't do anything to my pineal gland.
Binaural beats are also usually really like unpleasant to listen to.
I love listening to binaural beats, especially if it's a popular song and they've turned it into a binaural beats.
That's weird.
It's because it'll be like the audio of the voice on one side and one level, and then the melody in another level on the other side. And so it's kind of, maybe they'll switch back and forth. I don't know. I like it. It makes me feel like I'm cross-eyed. I like it. Okay, so I don't really understand what solfeggio tone is, but a lot of different websites referred to it.
I think that's the one where it's an auditory illusion. It sounds like it's progressively increasing.
Well,
I might be wrong about that.
I'm going to read some of this stuff out loud, and maybe we can figure it out together because I'm not really sure. So that's the 936 hertz is also solfeggio.
Oh, okay. I'm
tone.
Completely wrong then.
Okay, these tones trace their origins to a series of 6 repeating codes. This is what I'm reading, mind you. This is not what I believe.
Go ahead.
6 repeating codes found in verses of the book of Numbers in the Bible. One section displayed patterns of 3, 9, and 6, while the other section featured repeating patterns of 4, 1, and 7, and so forth. So forth what? So forth frickin' what? What the hell does that have to do with anything? It says, through a Pythagorean formula, these codes were mathematically reduced to a single digit, aligning with the first stanza of the hymn to St. John the Baptist. Initially, there were only 6 frequencies. Huh? No.
6.
No, 6 frequency out of all of everything? That's nuts.
They're saying they were, what does that mean?
I don't know. It says initially there were only 6 frequencies.
6.
In life? In the world? In existence?
This is another example. For instance, consider if we had 3 fingers on each hand, we would be using base 6.
Yes.
6 frequencies would make more sense in that case, but 10 like 960 whatever or 777, it wouldn't make any sense in that case. To like that repeating numbers to be somehow, this is a common thing.
You're speechless.
Giving power to words. Words are useful for thought and communication. They don't themselves, as far as anybody can convincingly prove or convincingly demonstrate, words do not have power beyond communication and for as a tool for your thinking. So if I just like chant an incantation, it will do nothing other than convince everyone around me that I'm crazy.
Okay.
The word 6, if I say the universe once only had 6 frequencies, what on earth does that mean?
I don't know. So I just read that because I thought, what the hell does this mean? And I don't know, and you don't know, so I guess nobody knows. Know. Okay, so going back to having listened to the God frequency on several YouTube videos, it kind of reminded me of humming. And when you're listening to it, and as I said, I had to turn it down, but it actually feels sort of like a vibration, like when you hum. And it turns out humming has therapeutic effects. There are some health claims about humming that it reduces stress, it helps you breathe more easily, relieves sinus congestion, lowers your blood pressure, and lifts your mood. When you hum, you create a buzzing sound with your mouth closed. You force air through your vocal cords. Oh, they don't call them vocal cords anymore. They call them vocal folds, which for some reason grosses me out.
I always tried to picture like cords in your throat. Folds probably make a lot.
It does make more sense, but it just for some reason grosses me out. So when you hum, it causes your vocal folds to vibrate and produce sound, and you can control the pitch by adjusting the tension, and you could even hum a tune. All of that vibration likely stimulates your vagus nerve. Well, you actually have two vagus nerves, which is part of your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the part of your nervous system that calms and restores bodily functions such as your heart rate, digestion, and respiration. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
That explanation is more attractive to me. So like them saying the humming produces a vibration, which then vibrates your vagus nerve, which engages your parasympathetic nervous system. That's more attractive to me than just saying like humming by itself causes all these effects.
Right.
Now I would expect the act like humming to be maybe therapeutic psychologically.
Yeah, depending on if you are
it's like
capable
smiling.
of humming.
You know, if there's any sort of built-in mechanism for you to do this thing, there very well might be doing it might also cause, you know, like smiling has been proven to encourage you to be happy.
Okay, so while you're humming, it stimulates your vagus nerves, and then that controls specific body functions such as your digestion, your heart rate, and your immune system. You're going to feel better, right? Correct? Those functions are involuntary, meaning you can't consciously control them, but you can if you hum because you're affecting them. Now, if we go back to melatonin being secreted from your pineal gland, melatonin increases the release of pancreatic amylase and proteins through your vagus nerve. So there's obviously a connection there. So humming, which causes a vibration, stimulates your vagus nerve. It could be possible then that listening to this certain frequency of sound causes a certain frequency of vibration that would do that. Yeah. The National Institute of Health published a study that says that participants who ingested melatonin had increased reactive aggression. It didn't address, whether or not increasing your melatonin naturally through looking at sunshine, you know, light, certain spectrums of light at different times of the day, or through humming or listening to a, you know, certain sound or a certain frequency had the same effect. But ingesting it, because that's the only way they could really control how much they were, you know, how much was going into the participants. And what they did was they had them in various, I think it was like they had them asleep in the lab, and then they would have something happen that would wake them up, and then they would measure their aggression. This sounds like a torture. Here we're going to do a sleep study, and you're all cozy, and you got your little favorite pillow, and you're wearing your favorite pajamas, and then bam!
Kind of asked for it, agreeing to do this thing.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, melatonin is a pretty powerful hormone or neurohormone or whatever it is. And so, like, for instance, it's supposedly a very, very powerful antioxidant. So if you take a large quantity of it, like I'm talking 1,000 times more at once than you would take as a sleep supplement, that it will be very effectively, antioxidize, I guess, things that those affect, you know?
Can you briefly explain how much melatonin a person should take?
Should take as a sleep supplement?
Yes.
The stuff they sell at the store, it's like, I want to say 3 to 10 milligrams or something. Whereas you really should be taking less than 0.3 milligrams. You really do not want to take a whole lot. It just messes up your sleep.
So you'd be better off humming or listening to weird music.
Also, you probably shouldn't supplement it all the time. You do it to set when you want to fall asleep. For a few days, you take it at that time, and then stop taking it. And don't take a whole lot. And don't take it in the middle of the night. Don't take it any other time of day. It's, you know what I mean? The melatonin, your circadian rhythm and your sleep cycle is this like really weirdly balanced machine. Requires a lot of different things to happen in your body. And it's, in my opinion, it's really stupid. Like, yeah, your body has to keep this clock and it has to respond to light and stuff. But man, it really messes everything up.
Okay, so I think that as far as the God frequency goes, it probably has value, but not in the way these people think. I don't think it's something paranormal. I think that it's actually causing a vibration in your body similar to humming that is giving you a feel-good feel.
So the tone is just incidentally the right frequency to vibrate your vagus nerve to make you calm down because it's activating your parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, seems reasonable. And I would expect other tones. So for sure, I would expect a different tone to be optimal for that. But I would expect different tones to have other effects in the same way. Like, for instance, if there's a bone in your body that vibrates best at like a really high frequency, because every structure in your body vibrates at a different, has a different fundamental frequency. It's like a glass, a small glass. If you tap it, it rings differently. When you tap it, it starts vibrating at a particular frequency that depends on its geometry. Every structure in your body, every structure in existence that can vibrate, which is all structures made of multiple atoms, they all have different frequencies that they will naturally come to if they're struck or waves start traveling through them. So like a bridge, it's the thing, like if you jump on a bridge or you do something on a bridge that causes it to start oscillating. If you jump at its fundamental frequency, the bridge will start oscillating at its frequency, and you will more effectively oscillate it than if you jump at any other frequency. Your pineal gland has a fundamental frequency. Maybe you can vibrate that gland fast enough to have an effect, which sounds horrible.
Okay, so just like you were talking about melatonin, its smaller amount has a better effect. You know, just because something, you're doing a small thing doesn't mean it doesn't have a big effect. So I do want to say something about the bridge thing, though.
Okay.
Have you ever seen that video of the bridge? I think it was in like Washington State or Oregon, where it started doing that, and then it just freaking collapsed. Yeah, that was horrible.
Really crazy. Certain structures in your body might do what you would call worse if they're vibrated. You know, it's not like, oh yeah, vibration, let's vibrate. Right. And let's just like, oh, it does well with this amount of vibration, let's turn it up. Let's vibrate it the hell out of it. Probably not a good idea.
A long time ago, a newsman named Dan Rather said that he was accosted on the street by someone who said to him, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" And it was such a simpler time that this was a huge, like, scandal that he said this had happened to him. I don't understand why. Later, the musical group REM made a song called "What's the Frequency, Kenneth?" But, I mean, it was just such a huge deal and had everybody talking about frequencies. Like, you know, this was something that crazy people talked about. People were talking about how it was something that crazy people talked about.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that when I first heard about the God frequency, I thought, this is absolute utter bullshit. And I listened to it and I thought, oh my freaking God, you would have to be insane to do this for any longer than just a few minutes, because it is disturbing. To me, it is disturbing. Yeah. It is not a pleasant sound. Binaural beats, I find interesting. Yeah. Not comforting.
I have to say, there's an literally infinite variety of binaural beats. So you want the difference between the two tones to be a particular frequency. You can vary the two tones so that the difference stays the same, or you can vary the difference. And so there are binaural beats that are fucked, that do not sound good, that are horrible. Like you could have a two high-pitched noises that have a low pitch, you know, reconstructed difference. It just might sound horrible. There are also other varieties of sounds that supposedly affect your brain or your brain waves or whatever. And one of them, I can't remember what it is actually better than, more effective at influencing brain waves than binaural beats. Can't remember what it is, but
it's the God frequency.
Well, it's like, have you ever listened to percussion noise?
Yeah.
I mean, the noise called percussion noise. No. I think it's called percussion noise. If you imagine like a tap, you know, like a impulse, but just lots of them at different frequencies. It actually sounds horrible. It sounds
It
gross.
sounds horrible.
It sounds really gross.
It sounds like the audible version of a lotus seed pod.
Yeah. Ugh.
Okay, I'm going to end it. Our contact information is in the show notes. You can email us, text us, or even call and leave a 3-minute voicemail. And as always, if you have a story you want to tell, send it to us. Please share, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and never be so terrified you can't run.